Hello everyone, I'm Tracy and thank you for tuning in today. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the body cam footage that was released by the Maui Police Department almost a week ago. And I'll give you guys my opinions on what's going on here, why this happened at this time, and then do some commentary on the speech or the questions that Pelletier answered during the press conference. So the word that sums up this whole to me, it's kind of a charade of them releasing these clips of the officers rescuing people and cutting down gates and things to let people out, and that's damage control. So earlier on, a couple weeks after the fire, Pelletier was asked, and I have this clip, was asked if his officers blocked people in to Lahaina, and he said no.
Life and protect each other. And so we've already found that some of the false reports on the direction of travel were not correct. We were getting people out of the area. We were forcing people not to go at a certain point down Front Street because it had already gotten too late. And so the efforts were to get people away from the fire and away from the danger.
So they weren't directed downtown?
They were not directed toward the danger.
And then after that, a lot of people came forward and attest that they had firsthand knowledge that this happened. So they saw the barricades, they saw the officers, and they were actually turned away from that area and told to go back towards the fire. And there are pictures, firsthand accounts, as well as video of these things happening. And they were at a number of roads. It wasn't just one. I believe at least 3 or 4 of the roads exiting Lahaina were blocked by the Maui Police Department. So he had to backtrack and say that, well, yes, the roads were blocked because of the downed power lines. So he was already caught in a lie early on. So I do think this is just in reaction to people finding out that his officers were blocking people in. So they released 16 minutes of footage of officers rescuing people. Now, I'll show some of the clips here.
Yeah, 10-10. Go for village. Evacuated. Everybody here is getting poor, so we're getting up. Y'all playing tanks in the city, back out there, yeah, evacuate. Yeah, she's here reporting, street, honey bumped up.
Is your house?
That's resident being covered.
You don't go down, right? We're evacuating people. It's up to you, though, yeah?
And I also want to mention that this footage was requested on August 15th. So it's been almost 2.5 months till it was released, which is an unusually long amount of time. So they had a lot of time to put this together. And never does an officer or the police chief say that an order was given to go door to door and rescue people. Now, another thing is just very obvious, but I think someone has to say it, is that if things were done properly, if there was a siren, if text alerts came in, then officers wouldn't have to go door to door helping people one by one. There's a clip of an elderly man that was in his house, and I don't think he even realized that he had to evacuate. So maybe if a siren was sounded, someone like that would have known to look outside and figure out what to do, because in this day and age, in 2023, going door to door rescuing people is not an efficient way to do things. There's much better ways of letting people know that it's time to evacuate. So this is just, I think, putting a band-aid over a much bigger problem. And again, it's 16 minutes of many, many hours of footage. I think they've claimed that there's at least 20 hours of footage. And they don't include anything involving the blockades. So, I mean, that's obvious they wouldn't, but that footage has to be out there somewhere. Also, the question of why didn't Pelletier discuss these actions of the officers rescuing people when he was asked about the blockades earlier. I personally, this is my opinion, I don't think he knew that that happened because it wasn't an order given down by him. And I don't think the officers came forward and told him. Maybe they were afraid of getting in trouble because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. I think what happened was they saw people in need. They might have seen friends or family being trapped in the fire area. So they kind of acted on their own and helped people get out. So that is very commendable. I just don't want the impression that this was the general way that the police conducted themselves on this day. Something very obvious as well is some of these clips were at night in like the 9 o'clock hour. So the fire had been raging for at least 6 or 7 hours by then, and they still had not sounded a siren and fixed the cell service and sent text alerts. So there was a long time that someone could have done something to help these people evacuate. And it just wasn't done ever, even throughout that night. And then he gets some questions. I do feel like these questions were very softball questions and possibly planned. And so one of the questions was about the after action report. And then again, we hear this time frame of 18 months. He said the after action report should be completed in 18 months, which is a ridiculously long amount of time. According to some of the comments I've heard from you guys that are in emergency management, it should only be a matter of weeks. It shouldn't take over a year to get an after action report together. But this 18-month timeline is something we hear in other aspects, such as the HECO investigation. There's also an independent investigation ordered by the district attorney. They hired a firm from Maryland to investigate this tragedy. But again, they said it should be completed in 18 months. So I feel like there's an order coming from above telling people that it's going to take 18 months to get any real answers. By then, the situation in Lahaina is going to be much different. Another question was, how are the mental health of the officers? Because they went through this horrible tragedy. And then he goes on about how important mental health and wellness is to the department.
So the question is if we've seen any decline in our personnel's mental health after the event.
That's a great question. It really is, and it talks about officer wellness. So let's just talk about that for just a second. President Barack Obama, after the events of Ferguson, created a document, 21st Century Policing. I know we've been mentioning it for quite some time. There's 6 pillars to that. Okay, trust and transparency being one. One of them is wellness, and I would liken it to the 6 legs of a table. To me, that one particular pillar seems to be ignored a lot. We talk about these other pillars, and right, they're all important. But this one here is key, because that's our people. That's their families. It's not just telling them you love them, it's showing you love them. And so what we are committed to do here is to make sure that we have the most comprehensive wellness program possible. We didn't just start this on the 8th of August of 23. We've been putting this into place for quite some time. And we're going to look at every single aspect of officer wellness that we can to make sure that all of our people, sworn and non-sworn, have all the resources available.
But if you saw my previous video about him, you will see that for the most part, he's not concerned about the mental health of the department. in the first year that he was chief, he got 7 official complaints. And a few people came forward and said that working under him was so stressful. Two people actually retired early. One was Assistant Chief Holokai, and then there was another man that retired early because it was so stressful working under him. And a number of other people off the record said that working for him forced them to go see a psychiatrist and start on meds to help with the stress that was caused by the hostile work environment. There were a bunch of other questions, things about how many officers did this footage come from.
August 8th with, and then at the height of it, how many officers were working, or I guess all over the island.
Oh, okay, so the question is how many officers we started for the day of August 8th for all districts? And then at the height?
And the height of it.
I think at this point we only have the information for Lahaina district.
For that one.
Yeah, sorry, right now I only have the information from that day for Lahaina on the number of officers. And actually in the morning, I don't have the exact number for that morning fire, but our officers from the night prior had stayed on shift and assisted until they're relieved, most of them around 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, between those hours.
And the sergeant there they didn't really give a lot of specific answers. A lot of the answers were we just don't know. And so I just think to sum this whole thing up, it's just simply damage control to give the public the impression that the police department did whatever they could to help the people. But, it does not negate the fact that all those things, those safety measures were not taken at all. And if they were, it would have been a much different story. There would be less people deceased, there would be less people missing, and the officers probably wouldn't have had to go door to door to rescue people. Now, another thing I did want to bring up, that this recent footage was released to all the major mainstream, not all, but some of the mainstream media outlets, such as CBS, ABC, and Fox Live Now. So it's interesting how this made it onto mainstream media, but the reports of the police blocking people in did not. So that is that's my perspective. And if you're watching this, if you've been following me for a little bit, you probably feel the same. I just wanted to make it clear because I know there are still some people that take these people's word for it and will believe a report that they see on mainstream news channels. So that's going to do it for that. I have a couple of other things I'm working on about my trip to Maui. So I'm going to try to get it out as soon as possible. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye.